I'm budgeting $9 million of organic growth this year. We're making a very big push on brand this year. It's starting at 30 grand a month, and then it stays static at 50 grand a month. We can do much more than what we're currently doing. We're already selling memberships in these zip codes. How do we just go deeper? Wilson just wrapped up the year in the low 20s, and we were pumped. I mean, most of the industry did not have that same level of success. And when I think about who was a huge partner for us, like top of the list was Service Scalers. We've been working with Service Scalers for a couple years now, and they've helped us drive best-in-class SEO, best-in-class PPC, and dominate LSA and GMB marketing. They've been a huge partner for us, and we're really grateful for that partnership because it's helped us to take down 46% year-over-year growth. As we think about our budget next year, we're aiming for the low 30s, and one of our most strategic partners is going to be Service Scalers. They're going to help get us there. They're going to help us stay ahead of AI. They're going to help us keep our SEO relevant. They're going to help keep us on the top exactly where we want to be. So make sure you check out servicescalers.com. Sam and his team over there is just a bunch of killers. So thank you, Service Scalers, for your partnership. Welcome back.
What's going on to Owned and Operated?
Owned and Operated. We've caught up some of our backlog. Like a week or two ago, we had an episode air, and it was like, yeah, so we're recording right now, and it's the week of Thanksgiving.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So we're caught up. So we're middle of January right now, and I think this goes live February 4th.
There we go. That's better.
But yeah, middle of January. January's going like really interesting. It's cold as heck.
I'm jealous of that because we are still having pretty moderate weather, and we had 1 week
negative right now. Yeah, like 6 feet to my right, it's in the negatives.
Ooh, I mean, good for you.
Yeah,
I'm really happy for you.
It's actually been kind of interesting because we haven't. I don't feel like we've had like a normal. I'm checking the weather right now. I don't feel like we've had a normal winter in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And like it's been really just consistently cold for 4 weeks now, which like the past couple years in Ohio, it's been like today's 60, today's 30, today's 20, tomorrow's 50.
Yeah.
But like I'm looking at our 15-day forecast and there's not a day above 30.
So, I mean, what you just described is what's going on with us. We had 1 day of snow or 2 days of snow, and it was like 31 degrees. And then the next day, 50. And then the next day, 20.
That's been every year for like the past 5 years for us. So this year's been crazy. Like, so what used to happen is it would snow and then it would thaw the next day.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had snow for like 2-3 weeks now, which we haven't had happen in like literally years.
Well,
and then next week it's going to be -10. We have 3 straight days of negatives.
Well, and do you guys, so for us in our kind of moderate weather condition, or at least where we're at, right, what we see is we see kind of a little spike there, but generally the spike is bigger in the beginning of winter, right? And then as you kind of get to January, February, it tapers out. You might get a few extra calls, but like bing, and then bing, smaller. Do you guys see that as well?
For us too.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll also like in the negatives, we're going to see a lot of burst pipes. Yeah. We're going to see a lot of frozen pipes. I mean, -9 is cold, and that's the temperature, let alone the wind chill. So that is just cold weather.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So your plumbing picks up, which is what we saw last year as well. Our best month was probably January last year when we were running with a really limited crew. So okay, no, that makes a ton of sense.
The colder it is, what we find is more water heaters. It's like that freezing air, like the wind like blows out pilot lights, or it like causes additional condensation, or so like the colder it is, we see a ton of water heaters go.
Yeah. That's the same here. But once again, we haven't I think our coldest we got was 15 degrees this year, 16.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, we're just not there. I mean, we had,
next week is our coldest week, 3 straight days in the negatives. But like this week I woke up and it was -1.
Jealous. I mean, that's cold enough to break water heaters.
Yeah, no, it's cold. We beat budget. We doubled our daily budget on Monday, and we beat budget by 50% yesterday. And today we're going to hit budget. So it's sort of like crazy. We're having a crazy week.
Congrats. That's awesome.
But yeah, January. So January's going good, and hopefully that carries into February and means that we're going to have like a real winter. Which again, it's been years.
Yeah.
Been years.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to play them out the cards you're dealt. And so, I mean, I'm jealous hearing that, but, we're still trying to do the same, play the cards we're dealt, and we'll see how that goes. And that's good. So you're talking about budget a little bit. Are you on track for budget in terms of like what you need to hit, or are you on track for your goal for January 2025 to hit the revenue you want to hit at the end of 2025?
Both. So we, I mean, we're, 2 weeks in, but
every day counts, John. Every day counts.
2025, this is our first year with a budget. So if you're out there wondering if you can make it into the mid 20 millions without a budget, the answer is you can. Do I advise it? No, but you can do it. So this is our first year with a budget, which has been, I've always been really hesitant, and I gave the excuses a lot of people gave, which is like, we're growing too fast to have a budget. That doesn't make sense. Which, like, I'm budgeting 9 million of organic growth this year. So like, that's still a lot. And I feel pretty comfortable budgeting it. So all that to say, like, I don't think there's any, I don't think there's such a thing as too fast. Cause again, I feel very comfortable budgeting for 9 million of organic.
What does that look like on a percentage base? Is that like 30% growth? Organic?
Like it's like mid 30s. Yeah. The first year with the budget, it has been extremely helpful. And I think we've talked a lot over the past couple months of like, hey, we're doing more check-ins. We're doing we set better monthly targets. We're doing weekly check-ins against those targets. We do weekly coaching with our frontline and senior leaders. We're now adding in weekly check-ins on cost center managers of like, hey, here's the thing that we need your team to do. We need 2 people recruited and hired. We need, AR to be X. We need X number of calls in and out for call center, and we need X amount of leads. So we're adding those new components to our budgeting process and just like this weekly thing. And then it's Wednesday. So second Wednesday of the month. And every second Wednesday, we do our monthly financial review of the previous month. And that, I think all of these like different disciplines that we've slowly added over the past 6 months, we're just consistently getting better, and it's exciting because it's showing. So budgeting's been really helpful, and the consistent like meeting and talking about it and progressing towards it has been a win. And like our gross margin every month for the last 6 months has risen by like 0.5 point to 1 full point, like consecutively month over month over month.
Boom.
Yeah. So like we're feeling like we're not quite where we want to be. Like we want to be a 55% shop, but we're in the 50s consistently now, which we have never been very consistent about it. We've been there. We just haven't been consistent. So it's exciting to be there and be consistent.
No, that's amazing. And a 50 shop is freaking outstanding. That's crazy. I mean, like we said, we did ours the other day, and it wasn't nearly as good as that. So we're working towards that, and hopefully we can get that 1%.
Like it's not as good as 50 or not as good as 55?
Not as good as 55. I think we did it was like 47, 48. And so we're pushing to try and get into the 50s this year. Yeah.
We just hit, I think this was our second month of like consistent 50s. We've hit 50s off and on, but like when we started really making progress on it, like 44, then we hit 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51.
Which
I think we were like 51.7 last month.
That's awesome.
But like, dude, every percent is hard fought.
Yep. Oh, 100%. And what's going to be interesting is to see how you do in February. So overall, because like February is the month where you cut and you start to try and, the discounts happen to fill the board and everything like that. So I'm interested to see how you handle that.
Yeah. I mean, December really, I feel like was a good example of it because
it was moderate.
It was pretty moderate.
Yeah.
And I think that we have been like our HVAC gross margin was 53% last month.
What's the benchmarks for HVAC and plumbing? What are they supposed to be for like a healthy business?
Is like 50% for HVAC is good. 55 is like amazing. I do know a company running like 57, 60 in HVAC, which is like unreal. But they're also like PE backed, so they buy like
really cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're amazing, but they do run like, it's like 59. Like I've seen P&Ls. It's like 59% in HVAC. And I'm like, that is unreal. Plumbing, 60% is the target. That's always like the known target. 20% labor, 20% materials.
Yep.
Very easy to understand. We have hit 60. We don't often hit 60. We are usually a 55% plumbing.
It's interesting. Yeah. Cause I mean, as we're starting to move on our plumbing journey, we're trying to figure that out. And that's what we've heard as well. And last month we ran 17.8% material, and I think we ran 24% on labor. And so we're getting there. Like that's what we're trying to come back with on the back end. Now that we're really honing in on our gross margin and getting all the accounting right, we're able to see it.
Like 55%, like we are overall, like we obviously want to hit 60, but like we're happy when we hit in the 55s. But yeah, 60 is the target. And then HVAC, I believe the target, well, I already said that one. Electric is like 60 to 65%.
Ooh,
because
that's pretty.
It's very low material expense. So like for us, I'm just like looking at our number here. Like our budget for materials is 15% for electric. And we are targeting a 62% gross margin. Last month we hit 61.
That's amazing. Yeah, so that's good. So you have two divisions that are blending up when you look at your whole to try and get you that 55% shop. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, in order to get to 55, like it's HVAC. Like we know where it's at. It's HVAC because HVAC is the one that could be 40% or it could be 55%. Whereas like plumbing, we know is probably going to be 55. Electric, we know is going to be 55 to 60, maybe above 60. But HVAC is the big like unknown every month.
With these 30% plus growth organically, what are you doing to try and get there this year? What's the plan? What's the big moves? Where's the silver bullets at to get there?
Yeah, big stuff we're thinking about this year is it's really the next like 2 years. Growth is always like, where are you going to get the leads? Where are you going to get the people? We feel pretty confident in our process. We're making a very big push on brand this year, like big push. I think it's probably a $450,000 investment total. And that's going to be, we've done radio and we've done branding activities forever, but like this is like a push. Yeah. So it's going to be, it's a meaningful part of our budget. And it went live first week of January. So it's going to like sort of scale up. It's starting at 30 grand a month and it taps out at 50 grand a month. And then it stays static at 50 grand a month. So TV, radio, billboards, the stuff that you'd expect, some social spend, some over the top. It's like it's a well encompassing thing. We've been working on it for 4 or 5 months. So that started January.
When will you know if it's working? Like when do you have your first like sit down to make sure that you're getting ROI on it, or how are you tracking that? Because traditional spend or traditional branding is generally really hard to get any ROI on, or at least see it outside of
I think it's hard to see it in the short.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when
I
are you
think it's hard to
sitting
see in
down?
the short term.
When you're sitting down and looking at that and trying to figure out if it's worth it or not, or if it's winning?
Like we'll basically do a quarterly review, and we're using a couple metrics. Like one of them is search. Like did our organic search volume increase? Did more people search Wilson Plumbing in this time period over the trailing 90 days and definitely this previous year, same time period?
Yeah.
So that's the first one. And then the second one is pretty straightforward. It's revenue by zip code. Like, did our revenues increase in these zip codes? Yes, no.
That's cool. So you're targeting certain zip codes with, I mean, I know you can geofence neighborhoods and geofence zip codes. Is that how you're doing this targeting for the branding?
No, this is an all-encompassing, we are covering the entirety of our service area.
Okay.
So that's a little bit different. But like, we're placing billboards in specific spots. We're doing over the top, which is like streaming in very specific spots. We're doing social spend in specific spots. So we do have a few like we are targeting right here's, and we expect to see big changes there. But then we have some like fringe areas. Like I had an area that we did like 800,000 in that we don't have a GMB. We don't have like 800,000 across 5 zip codes, but like that's a lot. We have an area that we did 1.2 million last year, and same thing. Like there's we really don't know why we really did 1.2. Like I bought a company there like years ago, but I assume it's just like our trucks are there a lot.
You don't know why you're doing so well because you're not focusing on it, but just naturally, organically doing well. So you're going to try and put a little focus in there to grow those specific zip codes in?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
basically. We have a couple areas that like our market share is not what we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other way that's sort of the final way we're thinking about measuring this is like, what's our market share? How many units get installed for HVAC? How many of them did we install? So like, what was our actual share of this market for water heaters, for sewers, for HVAC systems? And how much of that do we own?
And so when you're targeting these zip codes, what kind of metrics are you looking at other than just that? Are you running like an SEO report to see who else is there and then what the competition would be like? Or are you just saying, we're the best, we're just going to move in and dominate no matter what the competition is?
Yeah, I mean, basically the latter. I don't know about that attitude towards it, but like we're going to overspend everybody.
So we're going to go in there, we're going to overspend, and we're going to really push Wilson down, make sure that everybody knows the name Wilson Company, even if they don't use us. But hopefully they do have some attrition because it's extremely different than the way we're looking at it. So that's why I'm very interested, because we don't have that kind of marketing spend. So we went the back route and just said, hey, this market has 60,000 people in it. This is their average, the average income per household. Who's the competition in this area? How far it is away from the main shop? Mm-hmm. And so we took that and we said, okay, if we were to move a GMB into here that's from an underperforming area that we don't want to be in, we would dominate reviews by 4x. So the moving GMB would have 4 times the amount of reviews out of the gate. And then once we took over the SEO profile of it, showed like all of our keywords, that if we moved it into this area and we just did moderately okay and a little bit of spend, that we would dominate the SEO kind of marketplace for these houses. So
so we're thinking about it a little bit differently, where, hey, we already do, like in a lot of these markets, let's say, because it's all these like boroughs, like neighborhoods, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this neighborhood, there's a winner, and this neighborhood, the winner does $10 or $15 million. I already do $1 million in their service area. Like, I'm already there. We just don't have a GMB. Maybe we're not doing mailers. Pick a reason. But like, we're already there playing in their front yard. So for us, this isn't like new market that we've never touched. This is density. Like, hey, we already do all of this. Now we just want to do a lot more in these specific areas.
That's interesting, though, because so that's the same reason why we chose this area, though, to even look at in the first place. Was this was our 3rd highest performing zip code, and we don't have anything there. And so we said, why, if we don't have anything there, 3rd highest performing zip code, like let's put something there and make it the 1st highest performing zip code. So same thing. It's like we just realized that when we moved, when we're looking at their area, that from a marketing perspective, and it stems from our mindset of we just don't have that. Like we have our marketing spend, we can't go and drop $450,000. So we have to be a little bit more tight about who we're competing against. If it's Hoffman Brothers with 15 million.
I also think you don't need to. So like something that was kind of interesting. If you're not watching this on YouTube, I recommend you do. So like, this is our service area. So it's obviously like, maybe it's not obvious, but it's big. It's a quartile of the state that we're doing revenue in Ohio. So we cover a pretty big area, but like, I'm going to change these years. So let's go back to like 2018. And my point here is, yes, we did branding activities. Look at that.
It's about a quarter of the size of his last year's map, and it's really tight around Akron.
And I can pull it up. Like, I'm just going to keep going. So like, I'm going to take you through the years. So that was 2018. This is 2019, a little bit more 2020. And my point here is this was pretty much all lead generation with a little bit of branding. So in 2020, we added Cleveland, and you can see that if you're following along on video, like we didn't used to go above this line, which is like just above Akron. And then suddenly we're in 20 more zip codes because we added an entire new city. Go to 2021, and it just keeps getting wider and darker because we're doing more revenue densely. So this is 2021. We're now working in all of Cleveland. And basically, we just used lead gen activities to get us here. And you didn't have to drop 450 grand. So this one is like darker green. So we focused, we went a little bit south, roughly the same map. And then 2023.
You can see Cleveland.
And by the way, this is also one of the ways that we
solidify.
measure. This is how we measure our marketing too. Like, are we where we want to be? So 23 was wider, but also we have a couple zip codes that are just darker. We're doing more.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, last year, the widest and the most dark greens. So when we're looking at this now, we're looking at like, okay, where do we find our 9 million? Well, okay, this area here is a high income area, and I'm already doing $600,000. There's no GMBs. There's no like anything in these zip codes, and we are doing $600,000. Like we're doing a company worth of revenue inside those 4 or 5 zip codes. Okay, well, how do we do more? Yeah. We're like, here's 3 zip codes, and altogether we're doing like 1.2, 1.3. Same thing. No GMB, no billboards, no branding, nothing focused in those areas. And we're doing a lot. Mm-hmm. So, and then over here, it's sort of the same thing. Like it's far away from our headquarters, which is right here. So it's about a 45-minute drive, but we're doing $500,000 over here already. So how do we get density? So this is kind of an interesting map because if you look at it, it's actually the entirety of like the Northeast Ohio service area. And when we're thinking about our continued expansion, we're just like, how do we get denser in some of these zip codes? Yeah, so how do we take billboards, TV, radio, and just really get a lot of thick green?
Is that as wide as you want to go? Because we talk about it in 2 terms. You go wide or you go deep. You expand the territory out, or you try to get darker colors and take up more of the market share.
We're expecting
like pretty wide already. So besides for a new location outside of this, the goal now is not really to get any more zip codes. It's to maximize the potential of the zip codes you already have.
Pretty much. Like we do work in every zip code in our service area that we could reasonably do work in. So now like that's why we're like, how do we go even deeper? They're already seeing our trucks. We already have Healthy Homes, which is our membership in each and every one of these zip codes. So how do we go even deeper?
Just answer the phone is one of those phrases that's always easier said than done. I know it was hard for me in my business because the phone always rings while you're out in the field trying to get something done, or it's 8 p.m. and you're trying to get your kids to bed. Well, I have the solution for you. I'm extremely excited today to announce Quick Staffers, your go-to solution for building a high-performing, cost-effective customer service team. We are placing CSRs who have been pre-trained on proven home service SOPs and scripts, the same ones that Wilson and I use in our business. For a limited time, we're offering $500 off your initial placement costs for the first 10 signups. See link in the description below or head over to quickstaffers.com for more information.
So, I mean, this is ours. Very similar to yours. I think we were a little too wide, honestly, in my opinion, for where I'd like to be in the Nashville location. But you can see we are located right in here, this hot zone of dark. And then we have just a lot of light green out. But you can kind of see down here in this location, we do, 100,000, 200,000 without any GMBs, which I mean, it's not a huge amount but for you, but for, our size, that's
I mean, for a zip code, that's a lot of money. Yeah. That's a lot of money. And then that's a one-man show. Exactly. Like you're doing a one-man show's worth of business in that zip code.
And then when we looked at this and we went, okay, who is in Spring Hill? Who are we, I'm giving it away, but I don't care. Who are we competing against? And the answer is no one. Like there's nobody in there. So why wouldn't we double down and say, hey, this is one of our top producing zip codes. There's no competition, which is why we're getting them right now. We're bleeding down is what I call it, bleed through from our upper zip codes. So let's put something there. Let's maximize potential and let's really capitalize. And that's where our, I guess, 25% organic growth is where we're planning on getting it from. But let me ask you a question. So we're having trouble though, finding, a location to put a GMB. We would have to spend very heavily to open shop there in terms of percentage wise, right? We're at like 2.3 on rent for rent to revenue percentage. If we're to buy or rent, something down there to move a GMB into that location, because they don't have the typical ability, we would be looking at probably like 3.5 until fruition of the actual like growth happens. What do you think? What would you do? Would you take that risk in February to get into there?
I mean, probably not, because like GMBs take a while to ramp up anyways.
But you would. So but that's my worry actually, is because like I want it in place now so that when summer hits.
Yeah, but you're talking about doubling your rent expense. I mean, that's a lot.
No, not doubling, but like a fourth.
Yeah,
we found something, but it's a lot, and we don't need it, unfortunately. So I'm kind of mixed emotions on it, and so we're still searching, but it's available type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pull like a straight from Rich Jordan and like sub out the other half of it, like sublease, but it's just such a small office space that it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think I don't know. If it takes 3 or 4 months, I think I would just hold.
Yeah, that's what we're at right now. Is we're just
get to May.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Get some of that spring money rolling.
Yeah. Get that spring money. None of this 50-degree money.
That's really interesting. So you're going deep in a few zip codes that you're really passionate about.
Mm-hmm. So non-entrance. This is actually like the first year, and you saw it from the map. Like we actually haven't been trying to add new zip codes this year. We're just trying to do much, much more. Because what was kind of interesting for us is we did another like version of a market share study, and by trade, some of our market share is really low. Like our HVAC market share is low, and we're like, oh man, like it doesn't have to be this low. Like we can do much more than what we're currently doing. So that got us really excited about, hey, we're already in these zip codes. We're already selling memberships in these zip codes. How do we just go deeper? And we're pumped because I think like the foundation we're building this year, we're gonna really see the results in 26. I think this is like how we get to 50 pretty quick inside Northeast Ohio.
Can you talk more about, like, I know you've kind of mentioned that you have some channels you're relying on for branding. Is that the key that you view as is going to open up those locks? Is it like, hey, we're going to, in these zip codes, put some billboards in, and we're expecting that that's going to be what really turns on the ability?
No.
Or are you turning?
I'm glad you asked that to clarify. I do not think billboards are the right decision in the vast majority of cases. So like,
I agree.
Billboard work.
Disagree with you though. Cool Ray comes in and slams billboards down your throat, and then
billboards only work if you attach them to other campaigns.
Yeah.
So like I'll see people pull billboards for like 1 or 2 things, and like, hey, this one's near my shop, I want it, and like maybe, but like the best case for a billboard is you're running mailers or TV or radio or social, and billboards reinforce the zip codes that you want. Like that is a good use of billboards. But billboards as a whole, like it's kind of a tough branding exercise.
They're not they're not the triggering point that gets you to pull the trigger and make the call. The mailer is, or the ad on Facebook is, and they just keep you at top of mind, right?
Yeah.
That's the way to look at it.
Yeah, I'm going to give an example. There was a company we looked at a couple years ago, and they were $5 million and they were spending $500,000, 10% on marketing. And they were like shrinking in revenue. And in that same time period, we were just like going gangbusters. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? And then I randomly passed one of their billboards, and they were spending huge amounts of money on billboards. And like, that was their big thing. And they were shrinking, and they'd been doing it for years, and they were shrinking. And it's like, they should have been spending more in LSAs.
Yeah.
Should have been spending something in PPC or mailers, or it's like they were trying to, like, my quick take is use the medium for what it's meant for. And if you need leads, don't do a billboard. You need leads. You don't need branding. Billboard, TV, it's branding. So like, but if you're hungry today, you need leads. If you're going to be hungry in a year, you need branding and leads.
And with that, so if you don't mind me restating the question, so then are you focusing more on lead gen in that area, and then you're just going to support with branding, or are you just focusing on branding in that area and then you're going to continue your lead gen? Or are you
We're going to continue lead gen. Yeah.
Okay.
This is an addition of budget. We feel really comfortable with our processes around lead gen.
How do you feel about the LSA kind of marketplace at the moment? Because I've heard a lot of chit chat around LSA changes. I mean, they just got rid of the app. Google's search volume has been eaten up by AI search volume. What's your feeling on LSA moving into the future?
Well, that's why we started focusing more on brand. We feel like I don't know what 2025 and 2026 hold for like Google. I do think it would be hard to disrupt. Like the Google My Business review platform is like a universal review platform. Like to me, it's everybody uses it and every business is on it. And I feel like that's really easy. So it's hard to see the GMB side getting disrupted. It would just be easier to like knock it off, but maybe I'm wrong.
I actually agree quite a bit with that one because it's so ingrained.
I mean, every restaurant, every dentist, every plumbing company, every software, everything.
And you can't AI that away. If somebody said, hey,
there's so many other
HVAC company in the area, and they said, rapid response, I'd probably still Google it and be like, hey, let me like double check its reviews are good.
But I mean, there's Angie's List, there's Amazon, there's all these different like review aggregation things. But GMB is kind of the only one that is like pretty universal.
Yeah.
Like it's not for products, but it's for business.
I mean, I'm with you on that one. I just wanted to see if you had any different insights because you keep hearing this.
We're expecting more challenges in lead gen in 2025 than previous years.
I don't know if it's going to be a challenge for you. I think it's more so it's just going to be understanding what the change is, right?
Yeah. Well, we think it's going to be less like, you just use LSA. But we've been like, it's something we've been working on de-risking for a while. Like, how do we farm our own lists? What are the lead aggregators are out there and how much use are we making of them? Like we started beta testing lead ags like 4 months ago. So we're 4 months into it. We're not like LSA is the standard by how we measure like lead aggregators as far as return on investment, the ROI of those leads. Like LSA is the best. We get the best return on LSA spend.
Yeah.
But Angie's List actually is not far behind.
Cut this. Don't tell people this secret,
dude. It's crazy. But like, and
it was so bad that it's so bad for the contractor that all the good contractors left, but they're so good at SEO that they're able to get so many consumers.
Yeah. But what's also been interesting is like, guys, aside from Angie's List, there are hundreds of lead aggregators, and I had no concept. I thought it was Angie, and that was it. And there are hundreds of options out there. I mean, Modernize, like they just came on as one of our sponsors, and we are making money off of their leads. Like it is a freaking win. Yeah. So like we've been testing lead ags for a while, and there's a ton of them. So right now we have like 20 going in addition to LSA.
Yeah. So we have one, and that one. Last week we spent $1,300 with them, and they brought us 30 leads. 30 leads. For $1,300. It was like $45 a lead. And I'm talking about water heater replacements, HVAC unit replacements.
Well, once we finish recording, you can tell me the name.
Yeah. But
what I do think is interesting is like you'll find these lead aggregators that aren't Angie, and you're the only one.
I was just going to say that you can dominate if you have a medium-sized business, because what's happened is all the good large companies left for LSA, and they left a bunch of chuck and trucks, man in vans.
Or sometimes there's none at all.
Or none at all.
There's some lead aggregators that we're the only service provider for like electric.
Yeah.
In Northeast Ohio. So like we just get all of them. Now the thing that is totally different, similar to how Angie works, is it's not LSA. It is not someone's clicking to call and it's easy peasy.
No.
Like you have to have a really effective pipeline management. And I don't think we're there.
We're not
starting to get there. But yeah, it's a lot harder to get those leads, but they are there.
Well, because it's a speed to lead. So you have to deal with that right out the gate, especially if there's competitors, right? It's whoever responds the quickest on the weekend or at 10 o'clock at night is going to win that job. And then you have to get out there and then sell them or deal with the issue. And then there's a lot of tire kickers, a lot of shoppers, a lot of not LSA, this is an emergency. It's, hey, we were thinking about doing a remodel. We wanted somebody out here for free to walk us through. So there's definitely something there that has to be done in terms of how you and your team kind of sift through the noise. But there's some really good opportunity on lead gen right now, or lead aggregators right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm sure that'll change again, but LSA for us is still the standard by which they're all measured. Like LSA beats the heck out of all of them. And we've continued to just overproduce LSA. So I don't know if other people are, I guess I haven't really been keeping track of how other people are doing with LSA. I don't know if it's still like rough or not, but like LSA has still been good.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard from the grapevine is that it's not the way it was even last year. Like last year was still pretty set it and forget it, optimized. There's a few strategies. Mm-hmm. Now it seems that the leads there's maybe quarter or less. They're harder to get, harder to come by. And I don't know if that's due to the changes in service area and how they prioritize service area or not prioritize service area, but how they stop dinging them. There's just been so many changes to LSA in the last 6 months.
There's been a ton
in terms of algorithmic changes that I just don't even know. If you aren't following and being very active with the team, and if you're our size, it's me. It's not we don't have anyone else who's running LSA. So it's I have to know about the changes and how to navigate and what to do, how to prioritize your GMB now, and all this kind of stuff. So with that being said, it's really interesting, and the I think that the people who we've talked about it before, like in 2019 to 2020, you set it, you forget it, you get the calls. 2023, 2024, you set it, you do some minor management, you get the calls. 2024, 2025, 2026, I think it's hey, you set it, you manage it actively, and it's you have to fight a little bit for the calls. I mean, we're adding more emphasis and energy than ever into our GMB. Yeah. And I think that's a lot work.
But it's also we're getting rewarded. But I think, long term, I think brand is the ultimate winner. You always need leads, but once you can invest heavily in brand, it's going to win. So we see our push this year as a de-risk against leads, because we know in 6 to 9 months, next time we go through quarter one, we will have invested $500,000 into our brand in all the zip codes we already work in. So we'll go into it stronger.
I mean, and the proof's in the pudding. I mean, we see it here in our metro very often, just because there's so many big players that you can go through and ask people why, who did you use and why? And they said, well, I mean, I called this guy because we hear about them all the time. And it's that's it. That's the one thing that gets people to call, is that they are top of mind. And as terrible as the company is, which I'm not going to say the name, it's that's what draws people to it. So it's very interesting. I'm excited to see any kind of concrete evidence of it working, because it's very hard to quantify.
All right, so we talked about brand spend, we talked about lead aggregators, we talked about budgeting. This is a pretty wide-ranging conversation.
Moving into new zip codes.
Yeah, we added zip code. Yeah, it was good. We're gonna leave it off with our next workshop. I actually think it's already half sold out, which is kind of crazy.
I was just gonna say.
I think that's the benefit of this being our third one, is a little bit more traction, which is awesome. And so 30 seats. I think we have 15 signed up. Should be a lot of fun. It's early April.
Yes.
6th to the 8th.
Don't look at me. April.
It's on the website. Yeah, so our next workshop is in April. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a Breaking 5 workshop. So it's a lot of the fundamental stuff on how to get over your first $5 million bucks. Check out ownedandoperated.com workshop. to get more information and to reserve your spot. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.